Depression is the leading cause of disability worldwide. 1 in 5 adults experience a mental illness in their life. Nearly 1 in 25 adults in America live with a serious mental illness. 6.9% of adults in America are living with a diagnosed depression. 18.1% of adults in America have a major anxiety disorder. There are 18.1 adults in America that are diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. And this is only the diagnosed. There are many people who go through life who never see a doctor and who never actually become diagnosed. Mental illness costs $193.2 billion every year. 50% of all lifetime cases of mental illness begin by the age 14, and 75% begin by the age of 24. Almost 7% of the United States population has experienced at least one major depressive episode in the last year. Women are 70% more likely than men to experience depression. This is most likely due to the fact that women are more apt to go see a professional and get help versus men who just choose not to go and see a professional. So more women are just diagnosed. It doesn't necessarily mean that it affects women more than men. Young adults aged 18 to 25 are 60% more likely to become depressed than people 50 and older. The major symptoms that people who are diagnosed with a major depressive episode are categorized as is having a depressed mood for a period of 2 weeks or longer. Depression is a mood disorder. Common symptoms of people who are considered to be diagnosed with serious depression include changes in sleep pattern, a loss of interest in things that you once really loved, experiencing feelings of guilt, a lack of concentration, a decline in energy, low self-esteem, a feeling of hopelessness, changes in appetite, which can mean decreased appetite or increased appetite, psychomotor disturbances, which means there are changes in your motor skills, physical aches and pains, thoughts of suicide. Depression doesn't have a single cause. It could be triggered by many different things depending on the person. It may be triggered by something like a trauma or very, very stressful events in somebody's life, or it can occur spontaneously without being associated with a life crisis. The really interesting thing to me is the use of antidepressant pharmaceutical drugs has increased 400% from 1988 to 2008. Over 20 years, the amount of people who are taking antidepressants has increased dramatically. But yet, the rate of depression has continued to increase. 1 in 9 Americans over the age of 12 is on an antidepressant, and 1 in 5 has tried it at some point. Antidepressants are one of the most popular prescribed drugs, third in fact, next to painkillers and cholesterol medication. The use of antidepressants is increasing and it's not stopping. Something that you guys know that I am super passionate and committed to talking about is the use of exercise and physical activity to really treat the core of depression. So what happens when we're depressed? Why does our mood go down? Why do we feel like crap? And what's the difference between someone who feels depressed and has just a low mood for a few days versus someone who is diagnosed with depression? So one of the things is having the symptoms for 2 weeks or longer. And then that list of symptoms that I described before, which was about 8 or 9 things, is another signal. If you have 3 or more of those symptoms that I described, that you would be diagnosed with major depression, and antidepressants would be a pharmaceutical drug that would supposedly help you. So depression affects a few things. To be honest, it's not 100% understood. Depression is more than just feeling sad or going through a rough patch. Some people may experience depression, but they only experience one episode in their entire lifetime. But for most people who do suffer from depression, it recurs. Without treatment, episodes can last for weeks to months to even years. So although the cause of depression isn't 100% understood, we can see what happens in the brain and what's affected. So the brain structure is actually affected when we are depressed. Imaging studies have shown that the frontal lobe of the brain is actually less active. We can also see that our endorphins and neurotransmitters, which are the chemical messengers that help the brain talk and communicate to the body, are decreased. So some names of these endorphins and neurotransmitters might sound familiar to you. Norepinephrine, which does play a huge role in mood and is decreased when someone is experiencing depression. Serotonin, which also plays a part in mood, also improves appetite and our sleep cycles. Brain-derived neurotrophic factor. That's a big one. This is a chemical that promotes brain health and memory. Glutamate and GABA, which in someone who has lowered amounts of these may experience difficulty controlling their emotions. These two are both depleted in patients who experience depression and anxiety. Endorphins are a kind of neurotransmitter that help increase natural immunity and decrease our perception of pain. It also improves our mood when our body is producing them at a regular, balanced rate. So something I have talked a lot about on my previous videos, and something I have personally experienced and still utilize to this day, is the positive effect of exercise, physical activity on depression, anxiety, and mood. Listen, I get that this isn't new information, but the thing to me is that it's still not a mainstream remedy to treat these disorders. Obviously, there is a reason why our brains are not producing these chemicals and why we feel imbalanced and why our mood is depressed. And to be quite honest, our bodies, us as humans, were never designed for sedentary, socially isolated, fast food laden, sleep deprived, and a frenzied pace of modern life with tons and tons of stress on a regular basis. So the fact that exercise is not a mainstream remedy that is recommended by psychotherapists and physicians and other people in the mental health community is so frustrating to me. But the thing is, there is research to back up the effectiveness on exercise's positive effect on the neurotransmitters and the endorphin production in our brain and our body. In fact, there are many studies that even back up the comparison of bouts of exercise compared to people who are just taking antidepressant drugs, and the effect after the trial period is just as positive for the exercise group and for the pharmaceutical antidepressant group. And the thing is, exercise actually has a longer lasting effect on improved mood, decreased depression, and decreased anxiety for a longer term if you keep consistent with it. You know how powerful that is? You have the ability to make yourself physically, chemically feel better. Yeah, when you're depressed, maybe exercise, getting out of bed is the last thing you want to do. I've been there. I freaking get it. To get even the mental energy to get out of bed sometimes, to want to take a shower, is like the worst thing in the world, is the hardest thing in the world. So to imagine getting your butt to a gym, hell no. But the thing is, you don't have to do the extremes. You don't have to be all in and do all of the exercise things in order to reap the benefits of getting this exercise effect. In fact, even just 5 minutes of aerobic activity can induce an anti-anxiety effect. 5 minutes. Research even shows that doing as little as a 10 to 15 minute walk or bout of physical activity, which can be anything from dancing in your living room to gardening in your backyard to cleaning the house, moving your body may be just as good as a 45-minute walk one time a day. Physically active people have lower rates of depression and anxiety than people who are sedentary. And although the effects can be temporary from one bout of exercise, there is research that shows the after effects of this one bout can last for hours. And if you keep consistent with it, like there's a recommendation to do 30 minutes of walking 3 to 5 times a week, even if you're just consistent with a small bit, whatever you're ready to do, there is an effect that compounds and continues if you continue to do it. So what are the things that exercise actually does in our bodies and our brain that does make it so potent as an antidepressant? So the links aren't entirely clear, but what we do know, one of the things that we know that exercise does for our body and our brain is release endorphins, those feel-good chemicals that can improve our mood, regulate our appetite, and improve our sleep. Neurotransmitters, endorphins, endocannabinoids, these are all chemicals in our body that can help our mood and can help us feel great. So exercise not only increases our mood by increasing norepinephrine, serotonin, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, glutamate, and GABA, it helps activate the pathway, replenish these chemicals to help deliver that connection and that communication better and more consistently from our body to our brain, back to our body again. Exercise can also give us psychological and emotional benefits, like increasing our self-confidence just from meeting goals and challenges that we set for ourselves. Also, if our appearance starts to improve as we exercise, like we lose a little bit of weight, we're fitting in our clothes better, we feel a little bit less bloated, that in and of itself increases confidence. Exercise gives us a break from the pattern of negative thinking. Have you ever just been on a negative, vicious cycle, saying the worst things to yourself over and over and over again, and you cannot get away from yourself? Well, exercise allows you to get out of your head and into your body and breaks that pattern of negative thinking. Breaking patterns in getting out of this depressed mindset is a huge help, but it does take work. Exercise is something that allows you to break that pattern. If you decide to take a walk to get some fresh air and use that as your physical activity for a little bit during the day, having a little bit of social interaction, even if you're just doing this walk by yourself, the energy of connecting with others, even making eye contact, smiling with other people, actually plays a big role. Connecting with other human beings, not isolating yourself, is something that does help depression. I know our introverts out there are saying that they don't need to connect with other human beings. And believe me, there are times where I don't want to connect with another human being for a good chunk of time. Hit my social limit and I do not want to see another person for a good while. But to be honest, there is also a limit that you hit with too little social interaction. And if you are purposely pulling yourself away from interacting with people who you do enjoy spending your time with, and you're isolating yourself, that is not a good thing to do. Exercise also gives us a positive coping habit, something that's healthy, something that is good for us, that allows us to cope with the down feelings, with the stress, with the overwhelming just cloud of darkness that we are living in. Yeah, again, I've been there. So instead of coping with binging on food or alcohol or taking drugs or sex or gambling or any other thing that you can get addicted to, binging on Netflix, it's a positive coping strategy that you can use to help yourself. Listen, I am all in for doing things that are going to help myself. Yeah, in the deepest, darkest days of my depression, I did not give a fuck. I sometimes did not want to even put in the energy to go and wash my face in the morning because I didn't want to not feel like that. It felt like it would take all the energy in the world at that moment to try and help make myself feel better. And there was something inside me that just wanted me to remain depressed. I could swear. It was like a dark, demonic, black hole that just wanted to pull me deeper and deeper down into itself. But there are those times where you feel a little bit better, you feel a little bit lighter, and it's on those days that you have to take advantage of doing something good for yourself, because if you're not even fighting or trying to make yourself feel better, then who is? Taking a pill, taking a pharmaceutical drug is doing something, yes, but it can't be the only thing that you're choosing to doing. You need to do more. So take advantage of those times where you feel a little bit better and do something physically active so that there are more times where you feel a little bit better. And then there are times where you feel even more better, and it just increases and becomes more consistent. Wouldn't it be awesome if the norm became, I feel better more often than I feel down? And what if the norm became, I feel awesome more often than I feel better? Listen, I know I don't have all the answers. I know I'm not a medical professional. I know that I cannot help you diagnose your issues. All I can do is share my experiences and the information that has been shown in research and share that and give that to you, because I don't know, maybe I'm hoping that at least one person could get some value out of what I'm saying and they can learn to help themselves. Listen, I would not wish this feeling, depression, anxiety, addiction to anything, I would not wish it on my worst enemy. Because when you're in the depths of it, you feel like the world is coming down around you. And it's awful. Okay, I'm gonna link some information below to a few of the articles that I referenced today. I'm also gonna leave some information about NAMI, which is the National Association for Mental Illness, and there's no shame in asking for help. So thank you guys so much if you've made it to the end of this video. I really appreciate it, and I hope that you got some value out of this episode of my Vlogtober series. I know this one was a little bit serious, but listen, I need to talk about this stuff. This is the stuff that I want to share. These are the people that I want to reach. This is something that is affecting people who are vibrant, young people that should not ever feel these negative emotions. So, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you know someone who may benefit from hearing this, please share it with them. If you have any suggestions for other videos you'd like me to make surrounding mental illness, anxiety, depression, exercise, nutrition, I am all ears. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and I will see you guys tomorrow. I hope you have an amazing, amazing day.